So let's talk about the United States of America. It's this incredibly powerful and influential nation, right? But it's also deeply, deeply complex. It's a story packed with ambition, constant change, and some really stark contrasts. And today, we're going to try and unpack all of that.
At its very heart, the whole American identity is built on this fascinating duality. It's famous for being this beacon of opportunity, the land of the free, but at the same time, it's a nation that is constantly wrestling with its own contradictions. And it's that tension right there that we're going to explore.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture. What really defines this place? Well, if you boil it down, America is a country that has been shaped by its incredible diversity. It was, quite literally, built by immigrants from every single corner of the globe, with each group adding their own thread to this giant, complicated tapestry.
This gives us a quick snapshot, right? A huge country, 50 states, a major global player known for its relentless drive. But that middle point, that it was built by immigrants, that is absolutely key. It's where so much of its innovation and cultural richness comes from, but it's also the source of some of its biggest challenges around who belongs and what it means to be American. You really can't understand America today without digging into its past. And its story is not some straight, simple line. Nope, it's a dramatic history filled with struggle, reinvention, and huge transformations that have forged the very values the country talks about today.
So let's just trace this wild journey for a second. It starts with colonies under British rule, then a bloody revolution for independence. Not even a century later, the country's almost ripped in two by a civil war over slavery. Then, in the 1900s, you've got industrialization and two world wars that turn it into a global superpower. But even then, the fight wasn't over. The civil rights movement in the 60s was another battle for the country's soul, a fight for equality that, once again, completely reshaped the nation. Every single one of these moments was a massive turning point.
So what do you get when you mix all that history, all that immigration, all that change? Well, you get an incredibly dynamic culture. It's not just one thing, It's more like a mosaic, this vibrant mix of traditions from all over the world bumping up against the fast pace of modern life. And you can see American cultural fingerprints all over the world. Just think about it. Food traditions from everywhere get mashed up into something new. Entirely new kinds of music. Jazz, rock and roll, hip-hop, were born here. And then there's Hollywood, which has been shaping what the world watches for more than 100 years. And all of it is supercharged by this core belief in freedom of expression. But even inside the US, there's no single American experience. One of the biggest divides you'll see is between the city and the countryside. On one side, you have these super fast-paced, incredibly diverse cities. They're the hubs for tech, for money, for everything. And on the other, you have rural America, which just moves at a different speed, often with a much bigger focus on tradition, community, and being close to nature. And on a just person-to-person level, day-to-day life is usually guided by a few key ideas. You'll find people are generally pretty friendly, communication is direct, people tend to say what they mean. And yeah, being on time is a big deal. But kind of bubbling underneath all that are these core ideals of respect and equality. They're woven really deeply into the social fabric. Okay, so we've looked at the culture, this amazing mosaic. But what's the framework holding it all together? Let's pop the hood and look at the engines that really power American society. We're talking its economy, its laws, and its schools. At the very heart of everything is a capitalist economy. This whole system is built to reward new ideas, competition, and people willing to start their own thing. It's the machine that built the biggest economy in the world and made the US such a force on the global stage. It encourages taking big risks and having even bigger ambitions. And that economy is made up of a lot of different parts. Technology and finance are obviously huge drivers, right alongside the big traditional sectors like manufacturing. But something that's so important to remember is the role of small businesses. You hear it all the time. They're called the backbone of the American economy for a reason. But, and here it is again, that theme of contrast. The US has a really high income per person, and it's seen as this land of opportunity. But that opportunity, it's definitely not spread out evenly. There's a huge gap between the rich and poor, and massive differences in wealth from one region to another. It's one of the country's oldest and toughest challenges. Then you've got these other two pillars, education and law. The school system is supposed to be the main pathway to a better life, but the quality can be worlds apart depending on where you live. And the crazy high cost of college is a massive barrier for so many people. It's the same with the legal system. It's built on the Constitution, designed to protect everyone's rights. But actually trying to navigate it can be incredibly complicated and, well, controversial. So, where does all this leave us? I think it leads to one main idea. The United States isn't some finished painting. It's more like an ongoing, messy, evolving experiment. A nation that is constantly arguing with itself about its ideals versus its reality. Ultimately, it all paints this picture of a really complex place. It was built on a foundation of hard work and new ideas. It's been totally shaped by its diversity, and that exact combination has created both its biggest wins and its deepest struggles. And that kind of brings us to the final thought here. For all its problems, for all the contradictions, this idea of America as a land of opportunity and constant change, it sticks around. It's a nation that feels like it's always in the middle of becoming something new.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. As the American identity keeps shifting and changing, what do you think will be the one thing that defines it for the next generation? It's a question that really gets to the very heart of this whole American experiment.